Great. So, guys, the book that I'll try to do some justification to is called as Success Intelligence. It's written by Robert Holden, and I probably read this book at the right phase of my life. The book really challenges the traditional definition of success for all of us. And just to put a little bit context to it, um, in Eastern culture and later on in Western culture as well, both ways. I mean, it depends on how you perceive it. But there are a lot of hypocritic uh, beliefs which are out there. Okay. In Eastern culture, if you see, I've been interacting with a lot of youngsters in colleges, and whenever I ask them that what is your definition of success, they moreover spin around and come up with two things, which is career and money. Okay. So even to put this a little bit clear, I have a slide next to this, but before going to that slide, I would like all of you guys to go back when this COVID-19 situation wasn't there and you were living your usual life. Okay. And we were, usually going to work and operating in the normal environment like we used to. Okay. And take a bit of a time, say 5-10 seconds, and then I have this slide which has a couple of statements in front of you. Think of a situation possibly when you forgot to return a call or reply a text message which you should have, skipped a meal, forgot to drink your tea or coffee, and it became actually cold. You were multitasking, and because you were multitasking, you made a huge mistake. You've not been in touch with a close friend. You forgot an important birthday or an anniversary in your life. If you own a vehicle or you took a cab, you were either requesting to overspeed or you yourself were overspeeding because you were getting late. It can be a situation where you also missed an appointment with your doctor. Okay. Or you couldn't be with your children at their important occasion. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 scenarios that I have put, and just count how many scenarios actually were applicable in those last 3 months before COVID-19 situation. Has any of this happened to you?
I'm very fortunate. Last 3 months, if you're talking about before the COVID situation, I
Right.
have any of this.
Many of this.
None of this.
None of this. Okay. Okay. That is great, Kalindi.
I
But
feel fortunate. Now that you're listing it out like this in bullet points,
right.
I've suddenly started feeling very good about my life.
Okay.
Can I
That's
say
beautiful.
that? Can I say I'm the opposite? I realize that so much of that I've done.
Okay. Okay. So most of them or all of them?
Most of them.
Most of them. How about others? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
50%, 60%. You guys
yeah.
can just like mention.
In my case, it was just I skip a meal twice and forgot to drink a coffee. It became a cold. These two happen consistently for not only for 3 months, but yeah, earlier also.
Okay. Okay.
For me, there's three that I didn't do, but all the rest I've done.
Okay. 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 And I think we all would agree that most of the times, I mean, at least 85% or 80% of the times, the reason behind this was work, professional work.
Yeah, for me it was.
Okay. How about others? People are really like thinking right now whether there could be some other reason. But you can just confirm, like maybe 60% of the times or 70% of the times, reason was actually a professional work.
It was a work only. I was trying to click on the yes button, somehow it was not working.
Okay, 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 okay. So, this is the kind of concept that Robert had put across in his book also. These statements are, rephrased by me, or some of them are actually made by me because I wanted to put it a little bit towards Indian context. But similar exercises are there in his book as well, where he has a checklist of few statements that you can, reflect back to in your own life. And the concept that he talks about is manic society. Okay. What he says is that specifically for our primary society, okay, primary society, which is the work culture that we have, or the neighbors that we have, or the similar age relatives that we have created this manic society where we are always rushing for things, and at times they are not actually that valuable also, or they may not have those kind of consequences that we perceive. Okay, we are always in a hush hush, and now we are in a circle that we are completely stuck into. And this is where it starts becoming really interesting, where he starts defining success with the very first question, that how much success is enough. Okay. If successful, being successful is something that I still have to face these kind of situations or scenarios, would that be the kind of success that I want in life? And this is where, in my perception, success is about adding wisdom. Your older definition of success, you add wisdom to it, and you add happiness to it, and that is where it becomes success intelligence. Okay, where you are actually applying wisdom to your success. Okay, this kind of vision needs to be followed. And he also talks about instant success versus inner direction. Today's generation actually is in belief of this concept called as instant success, or success which is coming overnight, rather than what he is saying is that success is always coming out of your inside direction. Okay, there are a lot of exercises that he has also mentioned in this book, and this book is very much based on self dialogue. Okay, where you are basically having these dialogues with yourself, and you ask yourself these questions. So I'll mention one of the small activities that he talks about is, if you ask yourself the simple question, what do I want, and answer this thinking 10 minutes about this, it'll actually tell you what your mind wants. And post that, ask this question to yourself, what do I really want? And probably if you think about this for 10 minutes and answer it, the answer that you will get is what your heart really wants. Okay. But the third question is what is really important to us, which is, what do I really, really want? And this time, when you ponder into your thoughts, this is where you might get the answer of what your soul wants. Okay. So these simple and very practical questions and practical exercises is what Robert also follows in some of his workshops. Another example that he has put is, if you ask yourself this question, set of 4 questions actually, which is, who is real me? That is first question. What have I learned in my entire life? What have I contributed in my entire life? and what am I actually committed to in my life? So these kind of questions, while I was going through in this book, actually gave me a little bit of a sense, and broaden my definition of what success should be. So other concept which is very interesting is that he says that we all are actually innately having something which is called as a success contract, and this is one of the most popular concepts by him. Success contract is something which is followed by personal laws in our life. Now, these personal laws are being silently followed by us, and we just don't realize it. Some of the laws maybe we are following, some of the laws maybe we are not following. But if you understand this, I also found some of the laws which I was following, and after reading this book, I realized that, and I worked upon it. So the first law, the success contract, is basically a metaphor, and the first law is about the deserving law. Okay. Now, this deserving law says that how much success do I deserve? Okay. Try to think about this in a very different way, where some of the people actually have this checklist that I must go an extra mile in life, and I must win everyone's approval, and I should never do a single mistake. And if I have this, personal checklist done, it makes me deserve success. Okay. This is kind of like a fraud guilt that if you don't have all of these checklist pass, or this kind of internal qualification is not met, you just don't accept success properly in life, and that is where you start becoming a little bit more distant, a little bit more far away from the success that you want. These kind of people also believe that you know just being good hearted or just being good intention doesn't make you deserve success. You just should follow these checklists. Okay. The next law is basically called as the work ethic. The work ethic law says success is a byproduct to blood, sweat, and toil. This kind of law basically is with you. It is saying that success happens only through labor. Now, this creates a disbelief towards things that are like talent, inspiration, synchronicity, flow, or effortless accomplishment. Now, if now these people, if they have these things around them, still ignore it, and they always believe that the mantra to success is hard work, hard work, hard work, and their experience of success itself is much more lesser in the terms of quality. They don't work hard. That's why these people are always working hard, and they believe that's the only way to become successful, and that becomes the real blockage in their life. Trying too hard. They're just trying too hard to be successful at something. Many a times a lot of us might have realized that when we actually start trying too hard for something, our performance or our quality starts being improving, at least the efficiency as well. Many of times it happens in our relationships also, where we whenever we start trying too hard, the things actually start improving. So these are the thoughts that Robert has talked about. The next law is the pain permit. So the pain permit basically says that success can only be purchased by a token of pain. It is also with that very popular belief which says no pain, no gain. And if you feel very close to this concept, it's possible that pain is written in your success contract, which means that you might be having this pain attracting behavior as well, where you believe that life is hard. There is a very thin difference between life can be hard, but we should not start believing it, or it starts actually becoming very hard. Okay, life can be hard and life is actually hard is very two different things. Fun example of this was also given in a Rockstar movie by Ranbir Kapoor. If you have seen that movie, it's interestingly shown at the very start of it. The other law which he talks about is called as the hidden cost. So he says that these people believe that price to be paid sooner or later for any success that we achieve. Okay, so these kind of people actually do not believe that there is a concept called as getting a free lunch or gift in life. For them, everything is either a negotiation, or it's a deal, or it is some type of transaction that we are doing in life. They feel all good things come with a cost, or they come with an invoice which has to be paid later. That is why they are not able to feel the happiness of anything happening good at them right now. If they are not able to relate anything which is happening good for them, they start doubting it, or they feel that it's easy come easy go, something like that. Many of times I have also observed, I'm not sure whether others have, but I have seen that if in some families or in some places, if you start being happy, or you laugh too much, uh, parents may stop, or other people stop and say, don't laugh too much, or don't be too happy about it, warna nazar lag jayegi, you know. So it's quite close to that kind of thinking. And basically these people don't believe that there are unconditional moments in life. There are moments which don't come with a condition. Okay, the next law which he talks about is the sacrifice demand. The sacrifice demand is basically saying that for success you need to at least sacrifice something. It could be either a relationship, or a sacrifice of some good time with family, sacrificing your values, or sacrificing your health. And in my experience, I have actually come across quite a lot of online courses, or actually sat through some courses which focus on these things, that you have to sacrifice few things. There is actually a very popular course which says that you have 5 important aspects of life, and out of that only prioritize on 3 and sacrifice rest of the 2. So this kind of thing comes out of your ego, or some other belief which has been drawn upon, and we just kind of restrict ourselves that there is no better way. What author urges you to do is that identify that kind of sacrifice which you feel has to be made, and then start being open whether there is a better way to do this, whether there is a better way to achieve the same success but at the same time not sacrificing something. Okay, the next law which he has mentioned, one of the personal laws, is that the perfection order. The perfection order says that I can never fail, I can never mess up, or I can never be a second ranker in life. Okay, for me in life a perfect score is required. And they think that failure is not a learning, because they feel failure is not an option for them in life. And that kind of starts acting like a double-edged sword for them. It's basically inspiring greatness at a very high level, but it also starts killing inspiration, which requires a little bit of an open mind, which requires a little bit of mistake, and then a version 2 of many things that we do in life. It starts with a self-attacking behavior, and slowly the perception completely develops into a self-defeating behavior, where you start putting yourself down again and again if you do something wrong. And that becomes a huge distraction, that becomes a huge distress which you're putting all by yourself. That is, if that is one of the laws that you have in life, look into it. The next law which he talks about is the independence rule. Okay, it starts with being self-sufficient, people who prefer doing things all by themselves, and they feel a little bit guilty for taking any help. And sometimes they feel that taking help or referring to things which are available sometimes starts becoming cheating for them, and they feel the same for others as well. Okay, they always try to do things by themselves, and what they are basically doing is reinventing the wheel, building a bike, paddling alone, and trying to win a race by themselves, which may later on may not mean anything for them. And that is I feel personally was one of the things that I used to believe in earlier. And it's basically in very simple language, pardon my words, but I would say that is the biggest BS that our society teaches us, that success is a lone journey. Actually, success is not a lone journey. Success is a journey which is shared with like-minded people, and there are a lot of people who may not be like-minded, but they will still like you and they will still support you. So these kind of people always have a problem building relationships, or in intimacy. They in profession have a difficulty to receive partnerships or work properly in partnerships, and they are always unable to organize great groups, which results into some of the biggest things. And they lack cooperation and synergy. So these are the personal laws which are hidden in our success contract. That's the kind of metaphor that he has used. And if it depends that what is the definition that we are having for all of these laws, what is written exactly in our contract, our success contract, and if there are any amendments which are needed to be done. So moving ahead, he also talks about this very interesting concept, which is called as intelligence goals system. It's a very simple thing, but what he is saying is that everything is driven in our life is with spiritual goals, which is our visions and our values, and everything which is around it has to be aligned with it. So we have goals of giving, which is relationship goals. We have acquisition goals, which is having as much as we want. Achievement goals, which is doing something. And present time goals, which is now. And destination goals, which is going somewhere. Okay, so achievement goals is what do I want to do. Acquisition goals is what do I want to have. Relationship, how shall I be with others. Destination, what do I want, where do I want to end up in life. And present goal is what is important for me today. But everything has to be aligned with the spiritual goals, which is vision and values, first of all. And second thing is that if you are not at all focusing on any of these goals, then you need to start doing that. Acquisition goals or achievement goals or present time goals is something which pretty much is unavoidable in current days, how our society is. But all the other things may get a little bit forgotten. So this is another interesting concept that I thought I'll pick and discuss. Now another concept that I believe was very interesting in his book is failure policy. Okay. So all of us should make a failure policy in our life, which is basically defining for ourselves what is failure for us. Okay. Oftentimes it may happen that when we define what is failure for us, we may actually find what is success. Okay. What ways could I fail in my job? It can actually help build that kind of vision and strategy for our work. And this is very accepting kind of an approach towards failure. You need to actually accept that failure will happen, and then you need to start you know talking about it, start making use of it. How can I make use of this failure? For some people, they interpret failure as the end of their life, or they feel that if failure is there, there is no talent within themselves. Wherein some people can use failure as finding out the answers, that I need extra support, or I need to commit myself more to this particular goal. Okay, so that kind of positive approach needs to be taken ahead. And you know talking about failure. Many of us do not talk about failures in front of people or talk about failure to even ourselves. We just kind of forget it. But failure is something which is so important. It's a power talk. It can be actually as a used as a power talk, where if you're accepting, it becomes very positive towards you, right? You're overcoming a fear within yourself, and you shouldn't be going ahead with this thought that failure is not in my vocabulary. Okay, so this is the kind of thought that he has shared, and again, you should also reflect back and see that what are one of the most valuable failures that you have had in your life, in your relationship, and in your profession as well. Okay, these can become huge learnings, and if you are actually deep diving into them, you can find some of the patterns of your own and start working on it. But at the same time, if you have gained that, also start looking ahead for any past mistakes that you have done, any present mistakes that you are doing right now, and any of the mistakes that you might do in future as well. And then what's your policy towards them if that happens, or if that has happened? What is the kind of policy that you have created against them, which means that if this kind of situation happens, or if this scenario occurs, what are you going to do afterwards? Okay, so that's the kind of concept which failure policy talks about. And there are some more interesting things that I picked up. It's a huge book, and I felt that the few topics should be picked which I can convey at my best level, and few things which would summarize the book in the best way. One thing which he has mentioned about is called as competition block. Many of us are so competitive that we forget our main goal also, and we are stuck in that competition, and it starts becoming a blockage also in our life. Okay, so that competition block is not something that we should be stuck into. We should always be aligned with the main goal that we have always thought for our life. Thin conversations are basically the kind of conversations that we are having in today's life in our family, where we are having very small conversation that you had food, just calling your close one and just asking you had food, or have you been sleeping well, or how was the office. These are very thin kind of conversations. These are like just straight up questions, but not leading to anything which can be more affectionate or more emotion based. These are just question answers. So these thin conversations is that we should avoid, and have some meaningful conversations with our loved ones. The other thing that he talks about is destination addiction. Sorry, there might be a little bit of background noise, but I just can't help about that. Destination addiction is we are so much addicted to our destination that we have decided in life, that we may not be even thinking about a better destination that might be around and we can reach. Okay, so that destination addiction shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be too obsessed with any destination that you have decided for your own life. You might end up at a better place. And the energy crisis. And why I have mentioned about this concept also is because I also attended another workshop by Roger Hamilton, and he also talks about the same concept, which is every day you will not be waking up with the same energy in life. Okay, uh, there is a point of exhaustion which comes in. There is a point where you'll start tipping off, and that is where you need to halt and think that what you should do. Okay, so the whole idea of this entire concept is that this is not kinesthetic energy or electric energy or whatever it is, not that scientific concept, but for anything that we do, there is a separate kind of energy which is involved in it. Okay, and you should always analyze and see that what your current energy set is, and then accordingly invest your energy into it. It's possible that you like to read book every day, but there will be a day where you may not like to read a book. So you shouldn't be frustrating yourself with that, but rather than probably decide that day what other thing that you can do. Maybe a day where you focus completely on workout, maybe one day where you want to take a different approach and just be watching movies or things like that. So these are some of the points that I had come across in this book. And one thing, one particular quote which is there is basically that we are not lost when we stop, but we are actually lost when we start running very fast. Okay. So whenever we are, stopping somewhere and just, looking around and thinking about it, it's not that we are lost, we are figuring out. But when we actually get lost, we start just running away really, really fast without any clue. That's one, quote which stuck in my mind. And that's that, guys. Other beautiful things are also shared, but I feel, these are the things that I should focus upon.